because I understand that everything in that message may not be for me. And there are components that may be for other people. So I be patient to receive the part that I was guided there to receive. So I trust that the individuals that will be watching my videos are going to resonate on a similar frequency. Love, light, peace, and abundance. I will that you are having a fantastic day. The energy feels stabilized. The energy was quite intense after the 8/8 portal. During the 8/8 portal, I think we're one day beyond the window. However, we'll be experiencing the effects of the 8/8 portal, the Lion's Gate portal, for some months. However, I feel like the energy is stabilized now. I feel more grounded. I was receiving so many so many downloads, and I received clarity, right? And I will that you did as well. I will that you receive some clarity. I will that you receive some peace. I will that you sowed some seeds. You planted some seeds so that things will harvest for you come February of 2026. However, whether you took full advantage of the Lionsgate portal or not, our higher selves and our spirit team is always aligning things on our behalf when we are pursuing our divine path. So I trust that no energy was wasted, and that you'll see the rewards or the physical results of this period unfolding in your life. So I've been like rotating on how to express what I'm being called to express without being long-winded and drawn out and, you know, losing people's attention. However, I feel like whoever this is for, you're not gonna feel like it's long-winded, right? I know, like, when I watch videos sometimes of, you know, what people are expressing from their spirit, from their heart, whether, you know, it might even be a tarot or oracle card reading. I enjoy the longer readings, right? And I don't have that feeling of, oh my God, this is too long. Oh my God, get to the point, right? Unless people are talking, like yelling at their children and, you know, kissing and hugging on the dog, or, you know what I mean? Other than that, just being in the natural flow of expressing it, because I understand that everything in that message may not be for me. And there are components that may be for other people. So I be patient to receive the part that I was guided there to receive. So I trust that the individuals that will be watching my videos are going to resonate on a similar frequency, right? So I'm going to share whatever comes up. I'm going to allow the video to go as long as the energy is present, and trust that those that receive it are going to receive the activation, the inspiration, the spark of remembrance, the clarity, the confirmation, the healing, and anything else that you would benefit from in these transmissions, because that's what they are. They are transmissions. So yesterday I was in meditation. And I utilize meditation as a space to commune with Source and to give offerings, right? So I may give an offering of a specific amount of time, to where I'm going to sit still and I'm going to simply open myself up to receive whatever it is that Source has for me. I'm not coming to ask for nothing. I don't have any inquiries. I'm not weighted with anything. I clear my field and I simply sit to receive. And in me doing this, I received quite a bit. quite as a result of me receiving it, Source wants me to vocalize it, to share it, to express, to show up, be present, and share. So here I am, okay? I was reminded of what my reality was 25 years ago. And if you're new here, I am a channel. I am a what did they say I was? I was a interface. I'm an amplifier of energy. I am a architect of energy. So my body is the sacred technology that does all of what I do with the energy. So there are times where I am transmitting the download or transmitting the message or the transmission, and my body is filled up with energy, and I am transmuting it, translating it into words. The frequencies are aligning and doing all of what I do, right? And it comes up in my physical body out through tears. It's a release through tears that assist and releasing the energy so that as I'm balancing it, right? So if you ever see me tearing up, that's what's happening, okay? So I felt it happening, so I just wanted to be sure that I give some insight to those that are new here, so you're not distracted thinking that I'm getting emotional and I'm sad and I'm crying or whatever the case may be. That's not what's happening. However, there are times, because I am a crybaby, okay? I am a water baby. So if there is a time where it is emotionally touching me, I normally mention that somewhere in the transmission. However, back to the idea. So I was brought back to a time 25 years ago where my reality was, right? And it was being shown to me a completion of a 25-year cycle, right? It was something that took place 25 years ago that is being completed this month, right? And in me being shown this 25-year completion, memories came up, right? And as I was allowing, because again, remember, I'm sitting in stillness and I'm open. The field is open to receive. So these memories are coming in and I'm observing them. And as I'm observing them, I'm understanding why they're being shown to me. And as a result, I'm having an energetic release of what had been in my field, in my energetic body, for 25 years. And I'm being called to share with you what that was, because apparently you can benefit or will benefit, and there is an activation code in what I'm going to share that's going to activate codes within you, okay? And again, it's going to feel like, or it may feel like, I'm going all over the place because there's several components. I'm a flow with the energy. So 25 years ago, I got married. I got married young. I got married and I had a child by the time I was 21. In between getting married and having my first child, my mother passed away. Okay? My father had already transitioned. So by this time, I am what's considered an orphan because I have no living parents. My grandmother was now responsible for raising her 2 grandsons because my mother left behind 2 underage children. I was an adult. Not really an adult, but you know, an adult. So I had 2 younger brothers that my grandmother assumed responsibility for and raised them. I had moved out of my home state to a whole nother state. I'm married and I have a child. After the birth of my child, well, I'll say this. Before the birth of my child, I was happy. I was on cloud 9. There was things that was happening, and there were people around me that were trying to, like, you know, pull me back down to earth. However, I wasn't hearing it. Okay? I was very much happy on cloud 9, and anything that was happening down there on earth could wait. Okay? Like, I'll get to that later. Okay? So after my first child was born, I was brought back down to earth. Okay? I was brought back down to earth abruptly because the marriage became volatile. It became abusive. We were fighting. And we had planned to go on a honeymoon. And it was somewhere that I was really excited about going. We had already started making payments on it. And we got into an argument. And he decided that as a punishment to me, we weren't going on the honeymoon. Right? At first, you know, I'm like, okay, well, maybe he's just saying that because he's upset. He's going to change his mind later. Excuse me. I mean, because we've already started paying on this, right? Like, we've already started paying on it, and we're newlyweds. So why wouldn't we go on a honeymoon? He meant that thing. He meant it, and we did not go on the honeymoon, right? And I was crushed, right? I was so crushed. And that was the first time that I can remember from a man that he exercised power over me to control me, to punish me, to show me he was in control and I was powerless. I was devastated. I remember my heart being so crushed that he would do that, right? However, I'm married, right? I have a newborn child. Life is still goes on. So I moved past it, right? Fast forward, we're in the church. Now, from the beginning of our marriage, we're in the church. When I moved to the state that he lived in, we got he had already secured us an apartment before I moved there, so it was a surprise to me when I moved there the night that we got married, and he was already in the church, and I was going to church, but I was kind of like, I wasn't set in one denomination. I was still exploring. I was still seeking for the Most High, right? At the time I said God, seeking for God, seeking God, and that close relationship that I felt in my heart that I already had, I was looking to express it outside of what I felt. So we were going to church regularly. He was a musician, and he was like the choir, I don't know if he was technically the choir instructor, but he did a lot of instructing the choir. I was a part of the youth committee at this particular church. I spoke with the youth and helped with the youth. We spoke with the pastor about the turbulence that was taking place in our marriage. Now, I want to note that he was very close to the pastor's wife, and their family, their children. He was very close with them. After a period of time, we no longer went to that church. I don't remember the particulars. It was 25 years ago. I don't remember the particulars as to why we left that church. However, what resonates in my spirit, the reason why, is because of the image. Like, his image was starting to be in question because of how he was treating me. Because we were having conferences, and it was known that it was getting physical. I don't think it was known at this particular church, the frequency of it, but it was known that it was happening. In this particular church, there was no repercussions that was given to him in them having the knowledge of his behavior, meaning that he still was able to participate in church activities. You know, he wasn't disciplined in any way. There was nothing that happened. So we moved from that church to another church. In this church, he knew some people there as well. And he was the musician there as well. I was on the women's committee and the youth committee. Now, mind you, these might have had different names back then. I don't know. But this is the committees, okay? The women's committee and the children's committee. By the time we're in this church, I'm pregnant with the second child. We're pregnant with the second child. And I feel like while we're at this church, we delivered the second child. We did. We delivered the second child. So we have 2 children by this time. In this church, the abuse is also known because I spoke up. We had conferences with the pastor, the assistant pastor, and his wife. I feel like he was close to him, and I became familiar with her. She became familiar with me, and we became friends. I would go over to her house and spend time with her. I would bring the children over there. She had children, and we would, do what church women do, right? And I remember one day where I was speaking with her about what was taking place. I feel like, matter of fact, I remember it clearly. It was 9/11, because that was the day that I found out that he had been carrying on a side relationship, and I was devastated. I was pregnant with our daughter. Right. I didn't deliver yet. I was pregnant with our daughter, and I went over there. And wait a minute. I might be botching that up, right? I have this thing with the details, but let's just scratch those details, because I don't want to. I'm really particular about putting out false information, even though nobody cares about what I'm talking about, probably these details. But the idea is that I went over to her house after some big event happened with us. I went over to her house and I spoke to her about it. And during this time, I don't know if it's still a thing now. However, during that time, the church was not big on telling people to leave their spouse, despite what was taking place. There was always some scripture, some rhetoric to be expressed to encourage you to continue to stay and go through it. I know many of you have probably heard that this is a storm, a season of storm. Go through the storm. There's a rainbow, blessing, reward on the other side. I'm sure some of you have heard that the devil is busy, right? The devil doesn't want to see union under the church, so the devil is busy trying to separate you. So continue to hold on, to fight. God has you. God sees you, right? There are blessings and rewards that come from you enduring the suffering, right? And I truly believe that, because when I married him forever. I married him until death do us part. I meant the words that I said at the altar. I loved that man, right? I bore 2 children for him, right? So I did, although there was thoughts that came up of wanting to leave, there were so many other thoughts about staying. And I remember speaking with her, and again, she's the wife of the assistant pastor, and the church says that you're supposed to stay. However, she had earthly experiences that she could relate to what I was enduring. She didn't tell me to leave him. However, she did bring to my conscious awareness that I have a choice, that I could choose to leave, right? Ultimately, I chose to leave. I chose me in that situation. And many people may listen to this and think that I chose to leave because of the physical abuse, right? And I would understand that. I would understand why somebody would think that, because it seems like the logical thing, the logical reason why, right? Because who wants to be fighting all the damn time, right? However, honestly and truthfully, the reason why I left is because spiritually, I was dying in that marriage. And I didn't know how to recuperate. I didn't know how to recover. I didn't even know how to come back from That's spiritual death. So before I reached the end and actually died, I chose me and I left. And there was many thoughts that I had, right? I was young. I was 22 by this time. 22, I would have turned 23 that year. And I had 2 children under the age of 2. And I would have been a divorcee. And in my mind, it was like, who's going to want me, right? Like, I'm 22. I'm a divorcee. I have 2 children under 2. And I didn't get my degree because I left school to get married and start my family, because that's what was in my being. That resonated in my spirit as to what my life's path was. However, I realized in me making the decision that someone would love me and they would love my children, because that was the thing. I thought I was damaged goods and no one would love me. No one could love me, right? Because I came with all of this baggage, right? However, the reality is that I was very much lovable, and so were my children. And the fact that I was divorced did not take away from that. The fact that I had been through an abusive marriage did not take away from that, right? It was part of my soul's journey to evolve into the remembrance of who I am. So I chose me. And in me choosing me, that was me expressing my free will. And one of the things that I realized, and looking back, again, because I'm still in this meditation, one of the things that I realized looking back is that free will is not spoken about enough in religion, right? Free will is, I would say, one of the most greatest gifts, one of the most greatest gifts that we have been given from Source. Because free will allows us to see us, right? Instead of having someone show you or tell you about you or reflect back to you, and all of this does still happen on our journey, right? However, some of us find it challenging to accept the truth from these reflections. When you see the result of the decision that you made because of the choice that you made, right? Like, nobody had a gun to your head and made you choose that. Even when the circumstances of the situation feels pressured, right? And you feel pressure to make one decision or another, you're still exercising your free will. So, excuse me, I just got distracted by that hanger on the door. Excuse me, I should have took that off the door. Nevertheless, you get to see what's in you as a result of the decision that you made, right? And not only that, you also get to see you as a result of the outcome of the decision you made. So let's say you make a decision, and in your mind you're making the best decision possible. So you get to see the result of the decision that you made with the calculations that you utilized, the formulas that you operated by to make the decision. So that's one aspect of yourself that you get to see. After you make the decision, you see the result of the decision, right? And how you respond to the result shows you a whole nother side of yourself as well. So all of this is the process of you remembering who you are and the choices that you make. Like, you can either choose higher vibrations, lower vibrations. You can choose light, you could choose dark. You could choose love, you could choose hate. You could choose peace, you could choose chaos. You can choose all of these different things, right? That's what free will is. We live in a world, in a reality of choice. And for every choice, this is the part. For every choice, there is a result, a reaction. What did one of those guys said, I think is it Albert Einstein? He said, for every action, there is a reaction. Or is that Newton? For every action, there is a reaction. And this ties into what I share about everything being energy. We are energy. Everything is energy. So every decision that we make is an energetic frequency that's being put out. And that energy has to come back, because this is a current, this is a stream, right? A wavelength of energy. It has to come back in some shape, form, or fashion. So our choices show us us. So free will really is a thing. It's a very important thing. It's a very important key, jewel, aspect of this journey and the purpose of us being here on earth. However, religion generally robs us of that by causing us to believe that there's only one way to achieve or reach the destination of being connected, consciously aware of the relationship that you have with the Most High, which I understand to be our remembrance of who we are and what we came here for, the purpose of why we're here, the divine assignment that we have, the particular expression that we are of source, because we are source embodied, right? We are physical manifestations, physical emanations of source, here to express a certain frequency that is in the physical, living out a particular idea or assignment. In that meditation, I realized, or what Source wanted me to speak about, is the power of our free will and the importance for us to release the indoctrinations, release the dogmas, the religious structures, the hierarchical systems that make us believe that source is outside of us, right? And that we don't have a choice and that we have to suffer, right? I released in that meditation the energetic imprint of the punishment that was given, right? And what I realized was that he wanted to punish me more than he wanted to love me. Because when you love someone, not just an emotional love, not just a, boyfriend, girlfriend, we hunching kind of love, not a, I can do for you, you can get from me or take from me kind of love. No, the divine essence of spiritual love from source. He didn't love me, right? He wanted to hurt me. And that, in fact, he did. So I released giving my power away in that moment, right? Because, I never positioned myself as being a victim in that relationship, because we both exercised our free will. He exercised his free will to put his hands on me, and I exercised my free will to fight back. He exercised his free will to stay, and I exercised my free will to stay until I chose not to anymore, right? So I don't present it excuse me, as a victim. I left my tea on the other side. I don't present it as I'm a victim, because I'm not. I exercised my free will and I learned from that, right? And I didn't find myself in that situation again because I made different choices, right? However, and I'll probably speak about this at another time, unless Spirit wants me to share this right now. However, I will share what's coming up. I did not find myself in a physically abusive relationship, right? Again, although I did tussle a little bit with a boyfriend one time, right? But a full-on out physical abusive relationship, no. Like I said, I tussled, I fought once or twice with a boyfriend, and then that was that. However, after that, I was involved in a spiritually abusive relationship, where he was siphoning my spiritual connection, and he was siphoning my energy to support his agenda that was not of the light. So I learned the lesson, and I didn't repeat that particular, that particular course. It's like when you take Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, right? Before you go to trigonometry, right? So Algebra 1 was the first marriage. Algebra 2 was the boyfriend situation. And then trigonometry was the spiritual, siphoning and abuse that was taking place. Excuse me. So in me making the different decisions, I was able to go deeper into the understanding of the lesson that I was actually learning, and the energies that I was transmuting, and the generational curses that I was breaking, and all of the things that was taking place energetically, right? Because there was so much that was taking place from lifetimes. Like, those experiences weren't just what I was experiencing in this life. The frequency, the vibration, the undertone of what was in it for me to receive would later serve my remembrance of who I am as an entity, as a emanation of source, not just who I am in this lifetime. So although those experiences were uncomfortable and they were distasteful, and God knows I wouldn't wish it on anybody, they were what was needed and what I chose to go through, to remember and to transmute and elevate the patterns that I had in prior lifetimes as the shaman, as the mystic, as the priestess, as the empress, as the healer, the medicine woman, as the witch. You know what I mean? Like, all of these lifetimes, as all of the lifetimes, right? So in the meditation, that is what came up, right? That is what came up. So it was highlighting the womb, the religious womb. Let me see, because I made some notes. Give me one moment. Okay, so it was, one message was, I'm going to just start from the beginning. One message was, for me, the completion of the 25-year loop. And this is to show you how time is not linear, right? Time is cyclical. So there are periods in time as we evolve, as we elevate in our remembrance, as we get deeper in our remembrance, that things will come up from decades ago that in our mind, we've healed from, we've released. And that very well may be the truth, but there is still a chord or aspect that needed to be brought to the light so that we can make a conscious declaration, a conscious awareness to release, right? And to put peace and closure to that particular aspect. And sometimes it takes 25 years for it to come full circle. Again, that energy, right? That energy, the flow of energy, the current of energy. So just keep that in mind for your own journey. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge your path. Don't judge your experiences. Don't judge the outcomes. Don't judge your situation. You might be watching this video around right now, looking around, and your reality look nothing like you want it to look, how it used to look last year, how it looked, before. I remember after that first divorce, right? Eventually, I was able to move into my own place with the love and support of my grandmother, whom I love dearly. Love you, Grandma. And she held me down. She let me stay with her during the divorce and all of that. And during me initiating the divorce. And I had got a job and I started working. and saving money, and I was able to get my first place by myself. And me and the children moved in, and I remember I had the children's room all nice, you know, the 5-in-1 crib, the toddler bed, the cowl on the walls, toy box, toys, you know, the room was nice for them. But in my room, I had an air mattress and a storage dresser, right? And I remember I had a friend come over, a guy friend, and we were talking, and, you know, I was vulnerable, and I shared my thoughts about my situation, you know, looking around, and, you know, I had came from having a fully furnished place, right? And a whole nother life, a whole nother reality to this reality that I was in at that moment. And I felt like really bad about that, you know, really sad and embarrassed. And he shared something with me that 25 years later, or excuse me, 23, 22 years later, I still remember it, because the principle in it, it really helped me shift my perspective of my reality. And that choice put me on a specific track, because I could have kept choosing to feel sorry for myself. However, because he shared that with me and I chose to receive it, I was able to elevate my frequency and shift my thinking and my whole perspective into a different trajectory, right? Which is why our thoughts are so powerful. Our thoughts really do shape and mold our reality, right? So when you choose to think of a more positive and high vibrational outcome or idea, you are co-creating with source, with the universe, with your spirit team, with your guides, whoever you acknowledge, for you to reach your highest timeline. They're unable to support you and assist you when you keep choosing free will, because nobody makes us do anything. Free will to be in the lower frequency and lower vibration. They cannot make us rise in frequency. That would be against the divine design that's in place in this at this time, because free will is woven in. You know what I'm saying? So what he shared with me was that there are many people who would love to be in your position. Many people would love to be in your position, to have the opportunity to start off new, right? Because there's so many people that feel stuck, right? And obligated to stay where they are. They're not happy. They don't have peace. They're not experiencing love. Their creativity is stifled. They're not experiencing joy. They're not free, right? So when he shared that with me, I just remember how it touched my heart space, and I was so grateful to him, and I'm still grateful to this day. You know who you are. If you ever see this video, you know who you are. So grateful to him for sharing that with me. You know what I mean? And we have that ability now. So no matter what situation you're in, I don't care how bad it is, how low you think you've reached. If you think you've reached the lowest that you've ever been, okay, all praise be to the Most High, because guess what? There's nowhere to go but up. And sky is the limit. You don't know how far high you can go. You know your lowest point, right? You know how low you can go. You've been there. So let's shift our thinking to explore and pursue how high we can go. How high is this thing? Is there a cap on what's available to me? And if it is, I want to see what it is. I want to see how high it goes. Okay? So, mindset shift, right? The next one is the spiritual death that I escaped, right? Everybody around me was telling me to stay, right? Everybody around me was telling me to be the wife that God called me to be, to honor my vows, right? Through sickness, through health, till death do us part, right? I was being told to hold on so that I could receive my blessings that was coming at the end of the storm, right? I was being told through all of that to continue to suffer. And through your suffering, you will be rewarded. But my spirit was telling me, my divine connection to source was telling me, no ma'am. No ma'am. You don't have to suffer to be rewarded. You don't have to suffer to experience my love. You don't have to suffer to have a divine connection with me. You don't have to do that, right? And even when I resisted that, right? And pursued doing the things that I was being encouraged to do to change my situation and my circumstance, it didn't stop the experience that I was having of spiritually dying, right? I said back then that, you know, from the fighting, the bruises would heal, right? The bruises would heal. And I could move on. However, that unseen experience that I couldn't identify other than I felt like I was spiritually losing myself. I felt like I was spiritually dying. It was as though he was holding the line, right? My spiritual energy, that frequency, that current, and he was doing it like a water hose, and he was holding it with one hand. He bent it and he was holding it like this, and he kept holding it, and he refused to let it go. And it was like, okay, are you going to allow him to keep holding your line, or are you going to snatch your line back? Right? Like, at some point it became common sense. So I chose me, and I escaped the spiritual death. However, that wasn't something that somebody outside of me could have told me. That was me honoring my intuition, honoring my inner guide, my inner compass, my inner spirit, right? My divine connection to source. And I had to have enough strength and courage and trust to rebuke, right? To rebuke the spells that were being cast on me, right? To revoke access and declare that I was implementing my divine will. And yeah, so that was the second idea. The third idea was the exposing or the sharing of the religious indoctrination. Again, that goes hand in hand with what I just said, right? Because all of these things were being fed to me, but nobody was helping me boots on the ground, right? Like, nobody was there when he was boxing me upside my head. Like, when we were going blow for blow, like, nobody was there, and there was no repercussions for him for putting his hands on me. Now, I will put this disclaimer, because I thought about this after I got out of the meditation, and I said, you know, it had to be divinely orchestrated to go the way that it went for me to learn what I needed to learn, which was for me to choose me, right? My whole, clearly Spirit want me to share this. So the whole point in this sequence of events that I shared with the different relationships was for me to choose me instead of some authority outside of me, whether it be religious indoctrination or religious spiritual gurus or leaders or any of the sort, right? I had to choose my own divine guidance within myself. I had to choose me. That was what I learned at different layers, different levels, different, tiers, right? So nobody was aiding me or supporting me or encouraging me to choose me in this particular idea. The religious systems were cloaked, like they were cloaked as divine counsel, but it was really as control, right? Like, it was really control based upon their understanding of how this thing is supposed to work, right? But just because that's their understanding doesn't make it the right understanding. It doesn't make it the pure understanding. It doesn't make it the understanding that we're supposed to have from the essence of why we're here as individuals and collectively. So the message from that is that your free will is holy. So treat it as such. Okay? So that was the message from that. Free will is a divine gift. And to ignore it is to reject one of the greatest blessings Source has given. And I spoke on that earlier, right? To reject your free will, to willingly give your power over to someone else, and to abide by that after your intuition, after your spidey senses go off, is you rejecting one of the greatest gifts from Source. So take note of that. Meditate on that, explore that, so that you can unpack that for exactly what that means for you and how it relates to you. And another thing, if it is that you're watching this, you might not even gotten this far if this is you, but just in case you are, I want to put a little footnote that if religion in whatever, sect and expression resonates with you as your divine blueprint to your awakening, to your remembrance, to your divine connection to Source, and for you to live out the purpose that resonates in your being is uniquely yours, by all means, I encourage you to pursue that with all of your intention, will, drive, and determination, right? Because we're all here for different reasons. Some of us have been affected, hurt, damaged by the religious structures. And we need to know that it is safe for us to express that, not in a way where we're trying to tear people away from it, but in a way to honor, this is my truth. This is the path that my soul took, right? Like, this is what I experienced. And that allows for others to know that they're not crazy, right? And that it's safe for them to speak their truth. And they can begin to come into an alignment with what their divine path is. Some of us are disruptors of this old system. Some of us are bringing in, transmitting new codes. Some of us are here to activate the new codes that are lying dormant in others. So we have to have the freedom to speak our truth, no matter how people perceive it or who might be hurt by it, because you don't have nothing to do. You're not responsible for somebody else's feelings about your journey. Like, this is your truth, so you have the right to speak your truth, right? Your spiritual vitality matters more than appearances, doctrines, and outside opinions. And that goes hand in hand with what I just shared. Your spiritual vitality matters, right? If you're in any type of religion or spiritual cult or situation or experience or relationship or any of those things, and you feel like you're not free to be your authentic self, then move around, right? Like you have the right to choose you, right? Because your spiritual vitality matters. It doesn't matter what people think, feel, or believe, right? It doesn't matter what the doctrines say, that if you don't abide by this, you're gonna burn in the hellfire. Like, you're not gonna make it to heaven. Like, if you don't say these certain things, then God doesn't recognize you. You're not one of the chosen. You don't have to accept any of that if it doesn't resonate with your being, right? If it doesn't resonate in your spirit, that's not your truth. It may be somebody else's truth. It may be your mama's truth. It may be your daddy's truth, right? But it doesn't have to be your truth. If it doesn't resonate, it doesn't resonate. How they say, if the shoe don't fit, don't put it on. Why put on a shoe that you know is hurting your feet? That you know scrunching up your toes and you about to have bunions and corns. Why do that to yourself when you don't have to? Be free to walk and live and express the unique expression that you are. The unique emanation of Source that you are, right? Release is resurrection. tears and sound are not breakdowns. They are sacred technology for clearance. So one of the things that I want to highlight is that when I was going through the meditation and I was releasing that energy from the 25-year cycle, part of my sacred technology is sounding. And I was releasing through sounding. And as I shared in the beginning, I'm a crybaby. And that's by design. You know, I say that playfully. However, my sacred technology, the way that I'm designed, is that I release energy through tears. So I did a lot of that. I did a lot of sounding, and it was deep. I knew it was ancestral. I knew it was other timelines, other lifetimes. It wasn't just this one because of how deep it was. And the tears, I released it. And I've grown to the point now where I honor that. And I'm so grateful for that, because I understand that that is, again, part of my sacred technology. That is, my tears are holy, right? My breath is an offering, right? It's a release, right? So releasing is part of my healing, my resurrection, the essence of me coming to the forefront, right? Me embodying more of who I am. By releasing, I make space, right? So if you're one of those people who I used to be, who is hard on themselves for crying, who judges themselves for crying, who feel like crying is a sign of weakness, and who got time for weakness, because I got things to do and places to be, to conquer, to elevate, to grow, then take this into consideration. See how it resonates in your spirit as a shift in your perspective of your understanding, elevating your frequency to see it as a release. And the release is resurrection. And then you can close a wound not by going back to fix it in the past, but by walking forward in wholeness, right? So when I realized, or when I was walked through the remembrance of what took place, right, there was no guilt or no shame that came up, right? There was no part of me that, you know, wish I could go back and change and make different decisions and all this and all that. Nah, I honored my past for what it was, right? Like, those are all steps that had to be taken to get me to the version that I am right now. And this version right here, I loved her. I love her. I love her, right? So, and I'm so grateful for her, right? Because of all the things that I endured. And because of that, I was able to integrate that version of me with the version of me that stands here today and blend more or complete more of my wholeness, right? It's like I took a piece of the puzzle and was able to fit it into where it belongs today, right? So yes, those were the ideas that I just wanted to wrap up in a bow to be sure that you received what was available in this transmission. I will that you received everything that is for you. And this is one of them transmissions, as with any transmission, that it's so much in here that depending on where you are, you may want to come back and revisit this. So you might want to save this on a revisit later list and then come back, especially because this is in the window of the Lionsgate portal energy, right? So there may be something that was triggered in this video within you that you can, you know, follow that stream, ride that current all the way out, and then come back and receive something else, right? Another activation, another inspiration, another remembrance, right? So whatever resonates with your spirit, right? I am only here to show up to do my part, and those that will to receive will receive. If you watch this video all the way to the end, I am so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for you for being present to receive the transmission. I love you. I am so proud of you. Keep going. I want you to know that whatever you're experiencing today, it gets greater. It gets better. This is all happening in divine alignment. And once you have a working understanding of what is being shown to you in a situation, the reality will shift. So elevate your thinking. Think more positive. put on rose-colored glasses, drench yourself in optimism, swim in positivity, and your reality will shift, because you are co-creating, and your thoughts are the tool that you're utilizing to co-create and form the reality that you will to experience and that you deserve to experience, right? Because you done endured all these things in this lifetime, past lifetimes, other timelines. Come on, let's do what it takes in this lifetime to receive our blessings and our rewards. Okay, so be free to leave a comment if you haven't already. If you would like, share and subscribe to the channel, so that you can be alerted when videos come out, and we can grow the community together. Leave any thoughts or ideas or feelings or experiences that you've had in the comments. I would love to read them, engage with them if I'm spirit led. However, I will definitely acknowledge your presence by liking or hearting your comment. And you never know what you share, how it might inspire, activate, or assist in holding space or causing someone else to feel seen. So be free. However, only do what resonates with your spirit, okay? Until the next time, beautiful people, I appreciate y'all, all right? And love, light, peace, and so much abundance.